At Eachday, we are defining the future of ADHD treatment. Hey, I'm Christian Murphy. Christian like the religion, Murphy like Eddie Murphy. So, based on those chuckles, I'm guessing you guys have heard of Eddie Murphy. Today we're going to talk about something else you've definitely heard of, and that's ADHD. You see, ADHD is a growing problem. Over the last 20 years, there's been an increase in diagnosis, with adult diagnosis doubling in the last decade. Beyond that, culturally, we're more aware of ADHD than ever before. And what scares me the most, scientifically, there's a 91% hereditability. So, how many people in the audience think they have ADHD or have been diagnosed with ADHD? Oh, you guys are shy, huh? Well, according to the NIH, roughly 10% of the global adult population has ADHD, which means everyone on this side of the room statistically should have ADHD. And ADHD is increasing because we aren't treating it correctly. To treat it correctly, we need to look at the cause of ADHD symptoms. And to do that, you need to understand that people with ADHD develop differently. They're not stupid, it's just different. And that's due to a delay in cortical maturation. And during that time, traditionally, the executive functions develop. When it comes to the executive functions, we use these every day to complete daily tasks. And as you can see, a lot of these are one-to-one with ADHD symptoms. Things like inability to focus, impulse control, and organization. The problem is, current treatment doesn't address these symptoms because it's predominantly focused on improving dopamine transfer through amphetamine medication and helping with emotional regulation via CBT. And that's what the treatment landscape looks like. However, in the last 3 months, this landscape has changed radically, with Cerebral and AHEAD facing scrutiny by the FDA, and Achille Interactive failing to serve more than a couple thousand patients, despite a $1 billion valuation. And while it sucks to be someone with ADHD right now because of that landscape, it's great to be an investor. And that is because the average US adult spends $2,300 a year on treatment. And that's a $54 billion industry in the US alone. And as we talked about earlier, this isn't a US problem, it's a global problem. The reason it sucks for someone like me is I can't get the treatment I need. You see, that executive function training, which is so pivotal, has always been given in person, and geographically is limited to Boston, New York, San Francisco. On this slide, it used to say $400 an hour. After talking with one of the investors in this room, he told me he's paying $500 an hour in San Francisco for executive function training. So I guess just like gas prices, it keeps going up. Beyond that, as a game designer from Carnegie Mellon, what I'm really focused on is how can we gamify and quantify treatment to increase adherence? Because we know this audience struggles with consistency. And that's why we made Eachday, the gamified ADHD self-management app that increases executive function training. Eachday, a day-to-day gamified ADHD self-management app that strengthens executive function training to reduce the frequency of ADHD symptoms. It's a physical, tactile experience. We have over 500 pieces of content across cognitive behavioral therapy and executive function training, with real-time interventions that increase adherence and drive lifestyle change. Beyond that, it's heavily prescriptive. So there's minimal effort needed from our audience, which is so important for this patient type. And this all comes together in a digital memory, a data-driven profile that grows with you. And that is why Eachday will own the ADHD market. We're the first company to provide that executive function training in a digital modality. We quantify how ADHD impacts your life on a day-to-day basis. And beyond that, we are using the adult self-reporting scale, which plants us firmly as a digital therapeutic rather than a wellness app. And that's Eachday, the gamified ADHD self-management app that strengthens your mind, body, environment, relationships, and finances, the core areas that ADHD impacts, through executive function training, increasing medication adherence, and bettering the lives of patients everywhere. We believe that the future of ADHD treatment is digital, and we can't wait to share it with you. Thank you so much for listening.